Hey everybody, this is the Silver Spook podcast, and this is Silver Spook, and I'm happy to be here with Nathan Hamley of Sick Chicken Studios. The
Hello.
he's game Guard Duty is a point-and-click adventure. Blade Runner meets Lord of the Rings, if I'm not mistaken. Point-and-click adventure game through space and time was the original tagline, and it's very cool. I'm very excited for it. It's coming out May 2nd, and you want to tell them a little more about your game, Nathan?
Yeah, cool. First, thanks for having me on, Chris. It's good chatting to you again. Guard Duty. It's a fantasy adventure that's kind of styled like a mid-90s point-and-click adventure game. It's inspired by games like Simon the Sorcerer, Discworld, Blazing Dragons, which is quite a niche reference. This wasn't particularly popular as this PlayStation 1 adventure game, but it's real good. LucasArts games. It's, as Chris has just said, it's got some sci-fi in there, which is sort of this dystopian Blade Runner-esque sci-fi. It's primarily a medieval fantasy game, though. There is some sci-fi undertones. We've not really given away too much about the sci-fi stuff at the moment. We're waiting for release and for players to sort of experience that for themselves.
Keep an eye on this for a long time. I talked to Nathan like last year around, I think it was January, and the look has definitely like evolved, and it's like every news trailer has been like just definitely more and more impressive and looking really, really awesome. As I said, guaranteed adventure game of the year, and I'm buying stock in Six Chicken Studios already. I'm gonna like retire off of all the money I'm gonna make, from this from his studio. I'm joking, of course.
Yeah, I mean, we can dream, right?
Yeah. It's like, But I mean, like, I do hope that the game does very well. You definitely deserve it. But I've been watching this like longer than it's even been on Twitter, so it's definitely a very passion project. It's a very like labor of love, obviously, a love letter to the adventure games of the 90s and everything that you just mentioned. So people creating games that they really care about, rather than games designed by multi-billion-dollar committees, basically. So that's really cool.
It's all about the indies.
Yeah, here's something we'll jump in before we get more into that. I just want to get your quick commentary on this. But Obra Dinn is I believe it was made by one person, the guy who made Papers, Please, Lucas DeCope, and it took in the mainstream games, the mainstream game awards, it beat out Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the and other huge massive games for game of the year. That's a kind of a bellwether. That's a pretty big, momentous turning point. Even in the mainstream, they're trying to recognize that there's something really interesting happening in the indie scene. I don't know what you think about that, or if you have.
Yeah, it's great. I think to start with, he made a bloody good game. Like it's a really good game. I haven't played it yet, actually. I've just sort of heard people's opinions on it and watched a few videos. It looks fantastic. He definitely knows what he's doing. But I think it's really good that you're starting to get these games that are made by, not like, it doesn't have to be one person, but small teams of people that have got a vision for what they want to make, and you end up with much more of a kind of personal story, much more of a personal game. I guess a lot of these AAA games that come out, they're made by so many people that it's not quite a cohesive vision. It's not quite as polished a product, because they're outsourcing. When they hit crunch at the end of the project, they're outsourcing to some studio somewhere else that hasn't had any say in the project so far. And there's so many different people, like too many cooks spoil the broth, as they say. And I think it's nice that games like Lucas Pope's game and other indie titles are getting a lot more recognition now. So it's really good.
Yeah. There's like a quote in what was it, Black Mirror Bandersnatch. I don't know if you've seen that interactive Netflix episode. And it's like, action games can work in like very large teams, but you kind of need the sublime madness of a single person for the concept games, or for like you said, kind of like the games that have a very strong vision and a creative, personal, ulterior sort of touch is another way to describe it. And I do think that there's something to that. I mean, I'm in that field, I've been saying that for a long time, and I think that I'm glad that more people are starting to get hip to that, and I think that bodes well for Guard Duty as well, because it's a game made by a small team, and you might be up there with with Lucas next year. You might be I think he
Yeah,
already.
maybe the next game, but
I think he said something like, I've been saying for 30 years, this whole color graphics in gaming is just a fad. It's gonna pass soon. Because Oberdin is a 1-bit adventure game. It's basically just like 2 colors, right? Which is very, very cool aesthetic, and I think that's part of what made it. So anyway, on to Guard Duty. So Guard Duty's got really cool. We can't talk about too much about the story, obviously, but you want to talk a little bit about the world, and the background, and maybe a little bit about the plot?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me see. I've got some notes here because I'm really terrible at just ad-libbing stuff. But so it's primarily based in a high fantasy medieval setting, and as you play through, we tie it together with this running sci-fi theme, which kind of leaves the player guessing about how the two plots come together. You progress through the game, learn more about the larger story, and things take a bit of a darker tone. But you start off as Tonbert, who is a guard to the Castle Wrinklewood. He's like a halfling, so he's a little bit shorter than the other guards, and he gets a little bit of stick for that. And he's just a simple bloke. He's mostly stayed within the kingdom for his life. Excuse me. Sorry, I got like really bad cold at the moment. It doesn't help. This dude Tonbert, he works the night shift at the gates in the town of Wrinklewood. And one night he's had a few too many drinks, and he accidentally lets a mysterious stranger into the kingdom. And you sort of very soon find out that this stranger has kidnapped the Princess of Wrinklewood, Princess Ferriman. And Tonbert happens to be quite a fan of the princess. He's not spent that much time with her necessarily, but he's somewhat obsessed with this princess. And he decides to take it upon himself to venture out of the kingdom, across the lands in search of this princess to try and save her. Now, it's quite a typical fantasy storyline, at least for the start. But yeah, as I say, things take a somewhat darker tone as you progress through the game. And it does have an underlying sci-fi plot, which is, I feel like I'm just teasing people, but yeah, it's there. I won't say exactly how that works out, but that's kind of the gist of it. You meet all sorts of typical fantasy characters like trolls and goblins and other people like blacksmiths, that sort of thing. You go on an adventure from the kingdom across these wildlands, like to enchanted forests, to a northern region. There's around 80 locations in the game, so it's quite a big game as far as where you get to go.
Wow, that's a lot of locations. Is it basically like point and click adventure? You said point and click adventure style. So is there like like inventory puzzles, environmental puzzles, pixel?
Yeah.
Is there pixel hunting stuff, or is it basically what kind of?
We've kept as far away as we can from pixel hunting. So like all of the interactions and stuff are nicely signposted. Everything you click on has got a nice big hotspot on it, so you're not going to find yourself like squinting at the screen trying to figure out what you click on next. We tried to sort of streamline the interface a bit, so it's a 2-click interface, left click to interact, right click to examine stuff, and the inventory streamlined a bit as well, so you don't have any inventory combining puzzles. It's just straight. If you pick something up, generally you're going to end up using that on something else somewhere along the line. Most of the puzzles tend to be kind of environmental puzzles, like environmental obstacles that you have to overcome.
Right.
And then there's a couple of dialogue-based puzzles in there as well. But it's mostly about sort of experiencing this world that we've created and trying not to bog players down too much with puzzles, but still having that feel of a classic adventure. So still having the puzzles there, but most of them are fairly easy. I'd like to think they tie into the sort of the rest of the plot and the gameplay quite well.
Right. Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, that's kind of like a big debate nowadays, especially in the point and click and like adjacent genres. Is like, how to balance between like making the puzzles accessible enough for a large enough audience versus like kind of like living up to the standards of people who were like used to the difficult, because I would say like, maybe like the difficulty or the level of challenge or the level of frustration that 90s adventure game players were willing to accept was much higher. So
Yeah,
that, like you said, like the pixel hunting was a part of those games. And some people kind of look back at that fondly, some people look at that less fondly. And like I guess that's a hard. So I guess it sounds like you guys are trying to you've like erred more on the side of or trying to make it accessible. I mean, I definitely like, I constantly think about this too because I'm working on my own. It's like, is this puzzle too frustrating? Because like if I make this, I don't want to have like everybody bounce, like half of the players bouncing out of it and being like, oh my god, I got stuck on this for 5 minutes. I'm over it, right? So it sounds like you guys are kind of going more on the make it more accessible, and then signposting so people don't get like lost. That's a big problem, right? It's kind of like not knowing, it's like the not knowing what the goal is I find like a big. That was something that I kind of bounced out of some of the classic games myself because I was like didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Like if I knew what the challenge was, I probably could do it, but
we decided pretty early on that we wanted to give the player sort of free roam of the Wrinklewood, which is the starting town, right at the start. So there's like a short sequence of sort of linear, very simple puzzles that you get out of your bedroom and then you go through the castle, and then you're kicked out of the castle and you've got like the whole of the town that you can explore. And obviously that could be potentially quite overwhelming to players. So there's a couple of things that we put in there to try and streamline it a bit. We've got things like we've got a to-do list, which is essentially just like a quest log, like in modern RPGs. So if you ever are stuck with like what your main goal is, you can check your to-do list and that'll give you a hint. And yeah, just putting in loads and loads of signposting. Guard Duty's my first big it's my first commercial game. It's our first commercial game. But it's also my first big adventure point and click project that I've actually like released to the public. I've done a couple of very small like mags games, like jam games in the past, but never done anything of this scale. So I'm not necessarily hugely confident in my ability to make good puzzles. Like our beta feedback's been really helpful. And yeah, so far everyone seems to be quite enjoying the puzzles. So we just made sure that none of them are frustrating. I think that's one of the main concerns when we were making the game. We didn't want players to get to the point where they're stuck and, like you say, just quit out or start browsing Twitter on their phone. Or
yeah, totally. It sounds like you probably like on the right track. I think testing is probably like the biggest thing, and then like just letting people try it, because like I mean I probably should have done even more of that for my own, and in the future I'm going to try to do more, because it's like there's a lot of things that when you're the developer it kind of like seem really intuitive in your head, but then to other people it's like they're not, especially when you're too familiar with the game. It's kind of like artists sometimes they'll take the painting and they'll flip it upside down, and then you'll see new things that I forgot that like this you kind of like seeing things in a new light from other people's perspectives is like an important part of game design, I find. So that's like that's really cool. And how big is the team right now? Is it just you and who else?
So yeah, it's me and my programmer Andy, but we've also got a guy Chris who's been working on our Mac and Linux ports, and then our musician as well who lives in the States.
Oh, okay, I see. And you're doing the art,
Yep.
all the art basically.
Yeah, I've done the art sort of design, story, and most of the writing, and bits and pieces of the programming throughout. I do the easy programming stuff, and then Andy does all the complicated stuff. I sort of hand off over to Andy, and he does that. So.
Right. And so for let's see. Yeah, the art looks like it looks very cool. That definitely reminds me of like Discworld, 90s. It almost kind of looks like, yeah, I probably say like Discworld would be the closest thing, but definitely like a 90s era, classic animation, kind of almost like kind of like nowadays like Flash, or I heard this kind of like Flash style animation is more common nowadays, and this is almost kind of like a throwback to like more 20th, I would say like more 20th century style of animation, which is really cool to see. It's not something that people not something you often see in games or in cartoons or in movies anymore. And
Yeah.
so how was that process? I know you were working as an artist and graphic designer like previously before you started game designing, correct?
Well, I've done all sorts of different stuff. I did interactive media design at uni, and then did some freelance work there. I've done video production as well. But yeah, the art styles it just came about from me since I was a young teenager, just trying to copy my favorite like LucasArts and like Discworld and all these different adventure games that I really liked. I sort of really wanted to try and recreate that in pixel art. And that just ended up making the game in that style. It just so happens that there's not that many people making games in that sort of style at the moment, which is quite handy for us because it makes us stand out a little bit more. And what it's there's loads of adventure games coming out now, so you've got to try and stand out some way. We didn't really make this game with any kind of angle for marketing in mind. We weren't thinking we need to make a revolutionary adventure game. We just wanted to make a game that was like the ones we used to like.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays, there's a lot of adventure games that are coming out that are doing amazing new things in the genre, which I'm a bit jealous of because like our game is very much a throwback to the 90s. But also there's not that many sort of games like ours at the moment, so I think we stand out a little bit in that regard.
Yeah, I think like Mage's Initiation is one that recently came out. That's like I guess it's a fantasy game.
Yeah,
it's a little similar, but there's a lot of stylistic things seem to be different. Also, that one is trying to do more RPG ish gameplay, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's a bit more RPG elements in there. I think they're a bit more serious as well in regards to their sort of writing and stuff. But I mean, their pixel art in that game is fantastic. And yeah, I think it's a Proxy Max. I think his name's Shane. I'm not sure. He's one of the AGS guys who does the pixel art, and it's so nice. Like, I'm super jealous of their artwork.
Yeah, it's it definitely had a very very strong like polished style and like. But yeah, as far as Guard Duty goes, I do get that kind of, it's like I don't know. I've been kind of tracking how many games come out on Steam and on platforms. I heard something like it's like 1,000 games come out per day, just like across all platforms. On Steam, it's like at least 40 to 80 games on any given day. It's probably more now.
Yeah, it's a lot of games.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like just kind of trying to stand out is definitely like. I mean, it's kind of like on the one hand, it's like if you look similar, then it's kind of like maybe you'll pick up on some of the, people. There's an audience already for that particular kind of game. But on the other hand, if it's like, it's really easy to get lost in the crowd. I mean, obviously, like that's like, when I make my games, obviously, like that's what I was going for, as I say often. Is like, Neofeud is there's only one Neofeud. It's like one fish in a small pond, rather than like one. It's like the 64,000th best cyberpunk adventure game. It's. I just like, I don't know. Some people argue like, well, it's better to just be in that, just make a kind of more average game in a platformer or an RPG or, just kind of make another style. Because at least, there's an audience built in and they'll buy it because like, well, I played through Blade Runner. I played through Technobabylon. I played through Primary. Now I'm just going to play the next one. Right. And so this, I guess there's kind of an argument there. But on the other hand, Oberdin did, it's a two-color game, one bit game, and it sold, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of copies. Won all these. It's probably going to sell millions of dollars worth of games in about, it's probably going to make a whole ton of money. It won all these awards. So I think like, and it is a super, that is like, there is nothing that looks like Oberdin like right now that I can even think of. It looks like it was programmed on like a ZX81, like a graphing calculator from the 90s, like from 8th grade. I remember using that.
I guess the important thing is like the thing that all those sort of games have in common, like yours and Lucas Pope's game and my game, is it's just like people making what they wanted to make at the time. Yeah. And I think if you put enough of yourself in, put enough passion into it, then it's hopefully going to resonate with people. Like Neofeud, you've got your own style. It very much looks like Neofeud. It's super dystopian, but also you've got like you put a lot of your sort of own political opinions and stuff into it. I've seen, and Yeah, it's like social commentaries and stuff, and that's obviously really hot at the moment. So you're engaging people into your game by doing that, and it's because you're putting a bit of yourself into it. I guess Lucas Pope's done the same thing with Obra Dinn. He's just sort of made a game that was a game that he wanted to see, and then he's done really well. I think another good example is Hypnospace Outlaw by Jay, the guy who made Dropsy the Clown.
Oh yeah.
It's like that sort of late '90s, like dawn of the millennium internet simulator, and it's like such a crazy idea for a game, and it's done incredibly well, and it is essentially just an operating system. So he's like been quite limited in how he can sort of show that off, because every screenshot's going to end up looking like a web page, but he's done such a like awesome job with the visuals and the aesthetic, and he's sort of built his own world, his own little universe in there. And that seems to have just resonated massively with people, because we all, grew up through that age, and we were all like on MySpace and GeoCities and stuff, and we all kind of lived that at some point. So it's I don't know, putting a bit of yourself and putting a bit of personality into the game seems to do really well.
Yeah, totally. I haven't heard. I have to check that out. I know Dropsy, but I hadn't heard of that. Jay Tolan. I don't know if I was pronouncing his name right.
Tholen. I think. Tholen. I don't know. I might be pronouncing it wrong as well. But, check it out. Hypnospace Outlaw is really, really smart.
Cool. So it's got. So on the personal note, somebody was just commenting the other day. It was like, more and more people seem to be saying do something personal. It was like from another indie developer, and just kind of like echoing what you just said, and they were asking like, maybe I should do something more personal. And I guess I'm just kind of just like reiterating what you just said. Where was I going with that? And I think that like, it's kind of paradoxic. It's not like a guarantee, like just because you made a personal game, that's not like you're gonna sell 10,000 copies or 100,000 copies in the first week necessarily. Although I did, a guy who made Spin Artality, I don't know if you were you following that one? That's another Cyberpunk game.
Yeah.
He sold $90,000 worth of copies in the first week, so he did.
Jesus,
he did very awesome. Well. Yeah. So I was happy for that, and he also got $13,000 through the Kickstarter. So I think he's set to go for a couple of days, and but it's like at the same time there is a lot of games that come out, and some of them will make $10,000, some of them will make 30, some will make 100,000, and a lot of it is in the sales. Now I'm sure you've heard Dave Gilbert talks about that a lot, where it's like used to make what you used to sell in the first week, it might take you a year, but it's like people are waiting for a lot of times the game to drop more so than say 2011 or something like that, right? So it's I would say it's like, it's always, I think of it as kind of like just like making it very personal, and making it putting your full passion and your kind of yourself into the game, kind of in a kind of the same kind of thing, like in a sea of corporate what do you call it? Kind of like designed by like artificial intelligence algorithms that are like telling the corporation what to tell you to produce, almost like it's almost like designed by like the Google, Amazon, Facebook algorithm, right? And it's like, it's really not designed to be good. It's really, I think like the Jimquisition dude said something like, games are not, they want addiction, they don't want entertainment. They want you to be addicted, not entertained, and they want lore, not story. They don't want to actually have a story. They just want you to keep coming back, and enough to get you to stay on the platform, whether that's Netflix or whatever their massive AAA, massively online thing is, right? It's not really about telling a story, or if it's Gardino, it's like kind of recreating that experience of like playing Discworld or LucasArts games for the first time. It's not really about that. It's about just something out there to keep you addicted. So I think like it's kind of like, it's like a kind of a retaliation. In retaliation for that, Obra Dinn won. It's kind of like the audiences are saying like, we kind of don't want. Anyway, I'm kind of ranting now. So on to the next thing.
No, we're like the punks, right? We're what punk was to like pop music, or what metal was to pop music. Like going against the grain, doing something different.
Cyberpunk. I always say it's not cyber pop. It's not cyber shill. It's not cyber schmuck. It's not cyber corporate. It's cyber punk with a capital P. And I try to emphasize that. Like there's a big article about that, and like that's it's like I'm glad that like that is like I don't know at least coming back in some shape or form. I think that there's something to that and like that and it obviously there's gonna be a lot of attempt to there's a lot of what you call like fake companies that are gonna try to like fake what do you call fake passion and fake artistic or just trying to like make smaller games but made by a large corporation. But I don't think it can never really work. It's like how do you fake authenticity, right? I mean, I don't know. I think that this could be a really good turn for the game industry, which I was kind of worried about for like the last couple years. But it's very good. Although I will say that like I'm a little worried about all the I mean, what do you think about like streaming stuff? Like is your game okay? Here's a segue. Is your game very replayable? Because I know one debate is like
Nope.
if you make it linear, then the streamers, if they play it once, then that like this incentivizes people to go out and purchase it because they know. So yeah, like Unavowed, right?
I mean, yeah, like you say, Unavowed, that's got some replayability in it, hasn't it? You can sort of play as different starting characters and stuff. But yeah, Guard Duty it's linear. You can get all the achievements in one playthrough. Personally, I don't like achievements. Like the amount of games I've got in my catalog that I finished, but yet the system's trying to tell me I haven't finished because I haven't got all the achievements. I'm like, well, I played it to the credits and got I got my satisfaction out of it, like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Guard Duty isn't necessarily a streamer-friendly game. But I mean, streamers are out there. There's nothing we can do about it. If a streamer plays my game, that's cool because I get to watch them play it and see their reaction and stuff. I'm not really bothered by that. I think, yeah, we just have to accept that is a thing. People are going to stream games, and some games are more streamer-friendly than others. So.
Right, and it's full voice acting, correct, in this game?
It is, yeah. You can turn it off so the streamers can do their own voices if they get fed up of my voice because I voiced like a lot of the characters in the game.
Right. Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah, that's pretty. See, I'm like, I was scared to do that. I'm not as good with voices as I wish I was. Like my wife often makes fun of me because I can't do British accents, and she can't because she's British Colombian. That's a joke. She's not. She's not actually British. She just watched a ton of British TV. Yeah. And so, like, I don't know. I think, like, if you can do a ton of voices, like, I give you props because I'm not that good. I can only do like 2. I can do Carl Carbon or Protege, and that's it. Like that's it.
I like Protege's voice. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's basically like my that's like my friends from the hood. That was like my boys in the hood. My all my students when I was teaching and social working. It's like that's I have to kind of rein it in a little bit. Even he's like toned down. People are like, this is like too much. This is like too much with the Protege, and I'm like, you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. Like I could unload on this. And anyways, but yeah. So how was it like voice acting? Was it like is it like did you like train for that? Do you like practice voices? Or?
Honestly, it was kind of done through necessity. I really wanted the game to be voiced, and somewhat naively, when I did the Kickstarter, I was like, "Oh, it's going to be fully voiced." And then it came to the point where I had to do the voice acting, and I had sort of, I don't know, I've been in a few bands and stuff. I like I'm into showmanship a bit. I was in a metal band, so I used to do metal screaming and all sorts. Did a bit of drama in the past. So. Yeah, I just kind of I gave it a go. I mean, some of them are probably worse than others, but it was that or not have it voiced, So.
Right. Hey, do a couple of your best voices. Just a sample.
What, like on the spot.
Yeah, like right now. Let's do this.
Oh, jeez.
Which one can you do?
Right, what sort of voice are we gonna go for? Like I said, I'm no professional.
You're no professional. Okay, well, what's the most like entertaining? I was gonna say, well, don't do metal screaming because I'm probably gonna blow my mic, but. Or just like a demo of like something from the game that you thought this is going to be a really cool voice or something,
Well, one of my favorite ones is we've got a troll, and he's like, "Hello there, tiny halfling." Actually, no, that isn't the troll. That is the there's an old man in the castle. He's saying like, "Hello there, Tonbert. Welcome to the castle." And like I said, I've got a really sore throat at the moment, so I'm not, these probably sound awful. There's a goblin who's like, hello there, tiny halfling. It's got a very raspy voice, but it's. I think I pitch shifted it up as well, which helped.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's really good. That's like way better than anything I can manage.
There's like typical kind of British voices. I'm not sure if we've got a Jason Statham in there, but there's something along those lines. Well, so, oh yeah, there's Tom Burt. Tom Burt talks like this. He's got a West Country accent, and he's quite softly spoken, but he just gets up to a little bit of mischief. And then I can't think of any other bloody accents. Honestly, I did quite a lot. I think I voiced about 16 characters, and I'm sure some people will absolutely hate it. But yeah, like I said, it was that or no voice acting. We've got some really good voice actors in there as well, like some fantastic professional voice actors who were happy to work on the project. And then, yeah, me, and also some of my mates did some voices as well, who they did a pretty good job as well. But
oh yeah,
please don't take those examples as examples of the quality of the voice acting, because yeah, I did more than one take for most of the voices, but yeah, I mean, hear some of it in the trailer, and I'm sure some gameplay footage will come out soon, and you'll hear it there.
Yeah. No, that's definitely like he's also full disclosure. He's got a cold, so he's not up. I mean, like that's pretty impressive. Like I mean, I obviously I couldn't speak to the the quality of the British accents, but can you do a Cockney accent real quick? I just want to hear what that sounds like.
Oh, can I do it? Oh, governor, this is probably my best Cockney accent. I've not spent much time in London, so I can't do a very good Cockney accent. But, I'll do that one for you, Chris.
All right, there you go. I'm gonna I'll buy the game at full price just for that. Just for that. I was gonna buy it anyway, so that doesn't really count. But yeah, so that's really cool though. That you got the voice acting, the music, as you said, was produced by
yeah, the music on the other hand is great. Yeah, the music was done by a guy called Richard Stevens, and he did a really great job. So yeah, if you get fed up with the voice actor, you can turn that off and just listen to his nice background music.
Right. Yeah, it's is that the trailer music as well by him?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did the music for the trailer as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely fits. It definitely has kind of like a it kind of sounds like the synthesizer components of like SNES and PlayStation era hardware that you would, or the computers of that time, which is, I don't know if that's on purpose, but it definitely, like, I get that, almost like what would it be? I mean, I didn't play all the games of that. Like Final Fantasy had kind of that, like, it's just like a MIDI orchestra. Yeah.
Yeah, he really nailed that sort of 90s music sound. Like, it's not massively overmastered, and it's not like super. There's not loads of really high quality instruments. They're quality instruments. The songs sound great, but yeah, he's nailed that 90s ish sound. I was really happy with that. I think he did a great job.
Yeah, it was very, very on the mark. Let's see, and then the engine program. So obviously this is made in AGS, correct?
It is. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course it is. What am I talking about? And AGS. What? How do you like feel about Adventure Game Studio and like as compared? I know there's a lot of like there's been some changes to it. There's even some people I understand who've ported it to the consoles like the PS Vita and the Nintendo Switch and Xbox. What do you think about like where AGS is? Like, would you think about switching, or what are the pros and cons of it? Just for people who are interested in Adventure Game Studio.
I think if you're aiming to make a Windows-based game, AGS is great. It's a nice studio, a nice program to use. The language is fairly easy to get your head around. It's got a few rough edges. I think for making it probably has it has a few challenges for making higher res games, like stuff like they're working on it at the moment. They're trying to bring in dynamic cameras and things so you can like zoom in and out of the background and stuff. But yeah, I think if you're making sort of especially if you're making a pixel art adventure game, it's really good. And if you want to, publish it on Windows, potentially Mac and Linux as well, because there are people out there that can port it to those systems. It's good. But porting to consoles like Switch and Xbox and stuff at the moment is still like a really, really involved process. It's really, really hard. Like you're going to need quite a bit of money to be able to pay someone to port it to those systems if you can find someone who's got the time to do it. But otherwise, it's a good engine. It's a good fun engine to use. I'm toying with other engines at the moment to see if, like, I don't know if I'll make something else in AGS. I might move over to Unity, I think. But I think for for the game that we made, it was perfect because we're making sort of nice low-res pixel art adventure.
Right. Yeah, it's AGS definitely has its. I still like AGS because I could just jump in there. One thing I like about AGS is like it doesn't take the game that I'm working on 2 games, and one of them is like this other larger 3D RPG that I'm working on, 3D cyberpunk RPG that's with a larger team. Unity, and that's in Unity. It does we have a lot of assets in that one, and it does take a little longer to load. Although there's other things that are easier, like they do have Adventure Creator in Unity, which allows you to kind of like it's kind of like the programming that would take you to kind of scaffold the room, scene, hotspots, characters, walkable areas, all the things that you would kind of like the underlying adventure game engine that Adventure Games Studio provides you. It was hard when I started like Newfeud. I was working before Adventure Creator existed, and so it was like I don't want to like have to reinvent the wheel. It's like AGS is just like I kind of cut the workload in half just by having the built-in system. But now with Unity, you've got like much more powerful tools, and there's like drag and drop modular programming stuff. So where AGS is basically you have to have some programming, old school, JavaScript, typing, don't miss your semicolon, or put the bracket in the wrong place, or you're gonna be like up for the next 6 hours trying to figure out, so there's that advantage to Unity. So I think that there's some, I'm technically I'm working in both engines right now, so I don't know. Well, we'll see. I'm kind of like, I don't know, but I still like something about I like the AGS like loads up and it has a funny joke for you every time. It's like selling games since 1996, or like just like your mom used to bake, or some silly thing.
Yeah, honestly, AGS is great. It's a nice bit of software that, like you say, it's really fast to use. Once you've got your head around using it, you can achieve pretty much anything in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because I want to start playing around with some more fancy effects like shaders and different camera, like being able to zoom in and out cameras and track cameras around scenes and stuff, and having more high res assets and a bit like particle systems and things. They're all different bits and pieces that I quite like, sort of the idea of using Unity for. Whether or not I will end up using Unity, I don't know. But I think AGS is great if you're looking to make an adventure game and you want something that's nicely self-contained. You don't have to worry about, because with Unity, if you're using a lot of different plugins, you have to worry about the plugins getting updated. You have to worry about Unity itself getting updated and things conflicting when you've got new patches to download. Whereas AGS, you download the version and it just works, and you can work on it offline. You can just, that's your engine sorted.
Yeah. That's one of the that's the Unity kind of that issue of like it updating. That's been a thing. It took my computer it takes me sometimes an hour or more when I want to start working on it, if the team has put in a bunch of updates and it's an old version of Unity or something. So it does, which is the case with all modern software. Unfortunately, not just Unity, like games and operating systems now update. I'm like about to launch the game, and then Windows is like, oh, by the way, Windows has an unreschedulable update that's gonna like install 6 new antiviral, some spy something, and it's gonna take the next 2 weeks. So good luck launching your game. We're gonna update, and it's like, damn you, Windows. And then I cry. Anyways, so on to topic marketing. Yeah, I hate that though. I wish I didn't have to deal with all that. But yeah, so marketing and like the indie game scene in general. We talked a little bit about that, but just I was like, I understand you got a publisher, and like you've been doing a good job, obviously, like, posting updates and sharing on social media. Like, I've shared that, and everybody can jump onto Twitter right now and follow Sick Chicken Studios and reshare Guard Duty right now. If you're listening to this, stop listening to this and go do that, and then come back.
Yeah, do
and
it.
then also wishlisted on Steam. So, anyways, but like, as far as like the marketing and stuff goes, like, I know you mentioned like you didn't really like. We're not gonna like make a game, and we're gonna hit these demographics and aim for this target. We're just gonna make a game that we really wanted to make, that we're passionate about, which is a good thing. But like, as far as like trying to like promote and marketing, how has that gone? And like working with the publisher, and how has that, how how has it gone?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Our publisher, when he introduced him to himself, the guy said like, we're more of a distributor than a publisher. Like, they're very hands off. They haven't at any point told us to change anything. They played like one build of the game at the start, and then liked it, and basically after that, like, yeah, do you want a publishing deal, so to speak? So yeah, they've been very hands off. They're basically letting me take control of everything, which is great. Which is what I've been doing anyway. So yeah, it's just a matter of trying to post on Twitter as much as possible. Posting all these GIFs, retweeting stuff I've posted already. I don't know, posting on forums and social media websites. It's just like yourself. I just try and keep engaged with the audience, as they say, and just post stuff as much as possible. But yeah, I don't know. As far as working with a publisher, I think our publisher is a bit different to most, in that they don't really want to have much of a say on how the game's made, because they took us on really late in the process as well. We'd already pretty much finished the game. We had a little bit extra work to do, and I needed some funding to be able to continue working on it. So we got in contact with them. But yeah, it's been pretty good. Like, marketing it, like I say, it's just seems to be a matter of posting all the time and trying to find like interesting GIFs of your game that are gonna catch people's eye when you post them, and yeah, posting screenshots as much as possible. Thankfully, we had quite a lot of different locations in the game, so we've got quite a variety of things we can post.
Yeah, it's like everything that you've put up is definitely like, I mean, it's like it's like catnip for the classic '90s adventure game fans. Like, it's definitely, and everyone's a little bit different, so that really helps. And just, it is kind of that, it is difficult. I find it like it's like another full time job. It's not a full time job. It is, but it is like a second job for me. Just because I try to do all the marketing and promotion myself. And it's tricky, but it's, I don't know. It's kind of like, if you don't do it at all either, I mean, maybe you'll get lucky and you'll make $100,000 in the release, but again, it's like 1 in 60. So the more that you go out and engage the audiences and try to find new audiences, and it's it's just like, I think of it as like, just when you release the game, that's one lottery ticket, but the more you put out there, you don't know which one's gonna score, like which if Markiplier or some huge streamer picks it up, maybe you get 1 million sales in one day or something like that, right? But it's kind of like, you have to kind of be putting it out there for Markiplier to even think about playing it, right? So it's kind of it's just like, you have to like put the positivity out into the universe, and the universe will like repay the karma or something. I don't know. It's
yeah,
that sounds really hippy dippy something, but anyway, it's kind of like that. I mean, yeah,
it's kind of fun as well. I think it doesn't feel like a job yet, because like when I get posting GIFs and stuff on Twitter, for example, when you get all the comments and stuff coming in, it's good fun to sort of chat to people, engage with them. Like, the amount of times people have said, "Oh, this looks like Simon the Sorcerer," or "This reminds me of there's this other game that it's been compared to that I can't remember the name of. I think it's like Settlers or something. It's a game that I haven't actually played, but I looked it up on YouTube, and I can see why they think it looks like it. But yeah, you just sort of, random people come out of the woodwork who you've obviously never chatted to before and say, "Oh, this looks great," and then end up following you along on Twitter, which is nice. And I noticed that there's like a trend as well. Like, I find that there's certain people that will just always retweet my stuff every time I post something. They're always there retweeting it, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's nice to know that there are people out there who are prepared to just like support you all the way. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully
It's
by game number 5, maybe I'll have like a cult who can
yeah.
take over the world. But
There you go. There you go. That's why I'm buying a stock right now, so that I get in when the stock price is like 10 cents, so I can when it's $100, I'm gonna sell it off and then retire to Hull in the UK. That's a nice place, I heard.
yeah.
I'm gonna leave Hawaii and go to Hull. Actually, I have a friend from Hull. He's another cyberpunk game maker, PI Games. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. But yeah, I think social media it's true. It's like it's kind of a job. I mean, it's kind of like something you need to do in order for people to find your game in the modern landscape. But then also it is like I do find it like I work the hardest on like Friday night. I work from like 12 o'clock afternoon till like 3 in the morning because I'm like I gotta make this perfect. I gotta finish this scene so I can have the screenshot for like the screenshot Saturday thing, and it is kind of a weird thing where I guess it's a little bit almost like a wireheady thing. I want to get likes and retweets and stuff. On the other hand, it's like sometimes you do get good feedback, and it's like, oh, I really like the way that this scene is going, and this reminds me of this part of Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049 or Ghost in the Shell. I mean, for mine, it's more the cyberpunk end, but it's like it kind of does give you like energy to continue because development can be kind of a lonely process, especially if you're a lot of the time working remotely by yourself. So then I don't know, getting some feedback can like help you be like, oh yeah, I'm not just like hallucinating and throwing ink into Photoshop uselessly like a alienated cog in a faceless corporate machine, or I'm just like doing nothing and I'm just being silly on the internet or something. It's kind of like when the people talk about like, hey, I'm actually interested in playing this thing one day, like Our Duty, I want to like wishlist this, and hey, like everyone should, it's like, and even if it kind of sounds like kind of silly, but it is kind of like getting some social, I don't know, just some feedback that people care about this thing. It goes a long way, I think, and
it does.
Yeah, it can be addictive, but also it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like people need that. Anyway, so marketing and streaming, we kind of talked about that, and then like, yeah, just as far as the I don't know. Oh, I guess what do you are you talking about? What are you playing or watching, or what are you into like right now? As kind of like in the last little time, like what's something we should be looking out for, or something you really enjoyed in any field? Yeah.
Yeah, let me have a look at my Steam recent games because I can't remember. Oh yeah, I've been playing an old Daedalic, the sort of German adventure game developers, an old one of their games called A New Beginning - Final Cut. It's like a high resolution point and click adventure game about some people who travel back into the past to try and fix like this global economic problem. Like the world goes to shit, excuse my language. They travel backwards in time to try and like stop this massive worldwide natural disaster from happening. That's quite good fun. Oh shit! I completed Observer the other day. I don't know if you played that, Chris.
I actually haven't played. I've watched a lot of it, but I haven't played. I know of it. I know Rutger Hauer is in it, so I'm super jealous of that. I need to get him in Nephew too. So.
Yeah, it's I've been playing it on and off. But I think since it came out, actually, I sort of had a massive break, and then recently I thought I want to start ticking off a few of the games on my list. And I must say, it is really cool. It's like super dark cyberpunk. It's probably the darkest cyberpunk game I've played. I think it's the darkest cyberpunk game out there. It's almost like it's quite horror based in areas, but it's pretty much a narrative game. Like it's all just sort of investigating, like going to crime scenes, seeing some pretty messed up stuff, jacking into people's brains and exploring their memories, which are like all corrupted and essentially nightmares. And you see some pretty messed up stuff. But yeah, that's kind of cool. It's pretty good. It's got a few bits which I wasn't too keen on. It's got a few like some of the mandatory stealth sections where you've got some weird monster that you have to try and avoid, and then when you mess up, it just keeps grabbing you and holds you into the air like that typical FPS horror game, like every FPS horror game ever. I think it could have done without those bits, but yeah, the environments and stuff are super good. Like it sort of has that 80s cyberpunk vibe whilst being quite flashy and modern. Yeah, I started playing The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. I sort of enjoying it. Can't really get into that, but Um, yeah, TV stuff. I watched Love, Death and Robots. I think that's the name of it. The
Oh yeah,
Netflix
Netflix. Yeah, yeah.
animated thing. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Some of them were better than others. I think some of them were really, really good. But,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. Oh, we just finished the latest season of the OA as well. I don't know if you've seen the OA. That's pretty good.
I think I've seen part of the first one. I haven't seen the rest of the seasons though. I don't think. Yeah, it's pretty good though.
Kind of sort of psychedelic, trippy, um, like moody, atmospheric TV show. It's good.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of like I like the style. What I saw, I like the kind of style of it. I mean, obviously, I'm into like the I'm like of the Ridley Scott auteur cinema. Kind of like sometimes avant-garde, but I definitely like any kind of stylish filmmaking and game making and adventure games. A lot of them, especially the White Jedi ones, have a very cinematic and almost like TV. Like they're like prestige, naughties TV series kind of style to them. I always kind of like that. That aspect.
Yeah.
Just really polished. Like that anything that they release is gonna be, they have. I mean, they haven't let you down yet. So it's kind of like their brand. I hope that Sick Chicken Studios, like I'm sure, like it's like building that brand up is really tough and trying to get like a game, trying to get like a like a kind of like being known for a certain type of game. And I don't know if you were to say like what you hope to be known for, like after this game comes out of the next game, what would be like the Sick Chicken Studios thing?
I don't know. I think whatever I make next is going to probably be very different to Guard Duty.
Oh, okay.
Because like I've been working on that for so long that I'm really eager to do something different. But yeah, I don't know what our thing will be. I guess ask me after the next game, I might have a better idea. It'll probably still be. I love narrative games. I really like games that are like primarily narrative focused. If they've got a nice gameplay hook interweaved, implemented into it somewhere, that's always good. But yeah, I think we'll probably always make narrative games. Whether we'll always be called Sick Chicken Studios, I don't know, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's I guess it's hard. It's the first game, so it's hard to say. I mean, I know for me, it's definitely like I'm gonna dethrone Bruce Sterling as the chairman of Cyberpunk. That's my goal. I'm gonna
Nice.
I'm gonna be like when they Google Cyberpunk, it's gonna be Silver Spook for William Gibson first, and then the William Gibson podcast with Silver Spook that I did, and then it's gonna be Silver Spook. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I gotta get Rutger Hauer on the Silver Spook podcast. That's and Keanu Reeves, maybe both of them at the same time. That's my goal. Keanu Reeves, if you're listening, from one Hawaiian to another, come down to Hawaii or get on a Skype or something. Let's do this. Let's do Matrix.
I'm genuinely upset he hasn't contacted you yet. It's terrible.
What is wrong with you? This is a affront to all.
Come on, Keanu.
Yeah.
Stop making Bill and Ted sequels and get on Silver Spook podcast.
I know, right? I heard he's gonna. I heard they're well, he made the replicant. What was it? Replicants, not replicants. Replicas, and he made another Cyberpunk, and they're talking about Matrix. There's rumblings of another Matrix. So before that, we gotta get that. We gotta get it.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
I've not heard that. That's cool.
You haven't heard that? Yeah. So
I suppose Cyberpunk's really hot at the moment, so it'd be a good time for them to make another Matrix.
Oh yeah, Altered Carbon. The next season's coming out soon, so or sometime. Cool. In the near future. So yeah, it's a time for Cyberpunk. So I'm really happy about that. Make sure it stays punk, and I'm gonna call any site. You better not, if it's not Cyberpunk and you lose the punk, I'm gonna call it like I see it. It's gonna be Cyberpop, and I'm gonna rip it a new one. I'm just kidding. I know the Guard Duty is really cool game. I've been following it for a long time. Everyone, again, go wishlist it right now. Google search Guard Duty and Steam search it, and then follow Sick Chicken Studios. May 2nd is the release date, right?
Yep, that's right.
And anything else you want to...
like 3 weeks away or something as of recording this podcast.
Yeah, it's going to be...
a few days.
Very soon, so yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, anything else you want to say about anything, where to contact you or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, you can just visit sickchicken.com. And we've got our social links down the side there. On Twitter, we're at Sick Chick Studio, or just search Nathan Hamley on Twitter. We have a Facebook page. Don't really update it enough, but if you want to follow that, that's /Sick Chicken Studios. But yeah, otherwise, no, just thanks for having me on, Chris. It's been good fun chatting to you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Nathan. Before we sign out, can you do a Essex accent?
Essex. No, I can't.
You can't do that. How about
I would probably offend a lot of people more so than I did with the Cockney accent.
How about a posh London? Can you do that? No.
I probably could, chap. But I sound like an old man again.